play the demo. While we have the pre-show, we have 10 minutes left of pre-show. Oh my god, now it went red again. Why?
I think I can see you freezing in the Twitch stream at the moment you said why.
Okay, need to go to the 4G. I'll leave this streaming, see if it stabilizes while I do that, but probably not.
So, hello Dieter, hello Imminent, how are you?
We're good. And how are you?
Well, yeah, it's yeah, fine.
Still working on your stuff for the Lovebyte?
No, I didn't work at all, to be honest. I have too much to do actually. But I submitted a lot. I really like I dumped my folder basically to the competition.
Wow.
I think I have, but let me check. I can give you a number. Is this update entries?
Well, my 4G isn't working, which is not good. And I still have... oh, shit. I'll try switching to... Please don't do those packets. Please, pretty please. Orange. Orange is not good. I think we're good. No, red. Well, technically speaking, only the image freezes. So we can still do the show. It's just going to be a little awkward for everyone involved. I wish I had a better solution for this. Can try recharging the 4G, see if that helps while we do this. But okay, well, let's try just audio only, and hopefully it will still be okay. So, welcome everybody to Mystery Demoscene Theater 9000 Season 5 Episode 1. It's going great so far. A lot of technical issues and packet losses. I have 3 guests with me today. Dieter, which is a specialist on the Apple II. Ilmanit, which is a specialist on the Atari. And Helmut, which is a specialist in MS-DOS. All of them been tinkering with the Demoscene for a few years, some longer than others. And all of them specialists in size coding stuff. And that's what we were trying to do today, was to do a special show focused on the size coding things, because we have this party coming up called Lovebyte, for those who haven't heard it, which is specialized on doing size limited coded stuff. So, how you guys been doing? How do you like technical details on stream? You've been enjoying your day so far? Helmut, I'll start with you. How's your day going, and what can you tell us about Lovebyte? What are you planning to do for Lovebyte?
My day went pretty well, and for Lovebyte, I said a few things already to persons involved. I used the chance to dump a lot of stuff which I haven't released so far on the competition, so I have a lot of entries. But fear not, some of them are really old, so they will not be as excellent, so you can still submit something. Yeah, but you know, there is no other party so far which accepts 32 or 64 byte entries. Like they accepted in higher categories, but not with this limit. So I used this chance and dropped a few of them. Yeah.
So are you going for the biathlon thing, like participating in all the categories and seeing who is the winner?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Like not so much for the competition, but just to be one of the contenders to make the thing work. Yes.
Okay, cool. Illuminate, what about you? What are your plans for world domination at Lovebyte?
So I'm joining Bytathlon. I prepared stuff for 64, 128, 32, and 256 bytes. So
Nice.
I don't have that many items there. So altogether, I submitted like 5 prots, and 2 of them are this quarter kilobyte. And maybe if I'll be able to finish also the nano game, but I'm not sure about the time. But I hope I'll be able to do this
Are
before
they
the
all of
deadline.
them for the Atari, or you?
Right, yeah, all of them are for Atari.
Okay, cool. But have you tried to do some other categories as well, or it's just Atari is your thing and you prefer to stick with it?
I was thinking about doing something for DOS, but really not had time recently to refresh the memory of the all the assembly instructions and the OS and to look at all the new tricks that were invented to really do size coding on this platform. And I was also invited to do this TIC80 stuff, but so we'll see. Maybe I'll get something there, but I'm also unsure about the time.
I was actually doing something. I saw Flopin was doing a live stream yesterday, trying some TIC 80 for the first time ever, and some people were on the chat helping her out and stuff like that. And I had been thinking of doing entries for Lovebyte, but not have much time, so I decided, okay, it's a perfect opportunity to try to learn it, and I actually managed to do. Only took me like 4 hours, and I did a whole size byte intro, 256 bytes, and I already delivered it. I don't care, it's done.
Nice.
So I have one more entry, so it's possible to do. You just need 4 hours of your life, and if I manage to do it, anyone can. That's the pitch that I had. For the audience out there. Dieter, what about you? Are you participating in something for Lovebyte?
Yes. All my entries are for the Apple II, but I've got sort of 2 each for 32, 64, 128, 256. And it's been fun. There's not been many entries to the Apple II for 32 or 64, so it's interesting thing to try. I've tried, I code for some other things. I actually have a few DOS ones. It's just my skills aren't that great, so I don't even bother submitting them because.
How is the Apple II assembler compared to the other stuff? You have a lot of Apple II experience. Do you find it easier? Well, clearly you know it a lot better, but do you find it easier? Why is it your comfort zone?
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually done a lot of assembly programming. I actually had a project a while back where I tried to see how many size coding for a lot of different platforms. I actually got to about 30 different ones I've written assembly for. My strongest is probably 6502 assembly on the Apple II right now. x86 and ARM, I can do some ARM. I do some size coding on that too. But recently the issue was someone recently came up with the Apple II bot, basic bot on Twitter, where you tweet in one tweet some basic, and then it runs it for you and gives you the video of it. And we found out a way to get 140 bytes of machine code into that. And so I've been doing all these just cool little things with that, and it turns out with some extra work you can get those to fit down in the the 128 range. And so I've just been so focused on 6502 recently. It's been fun to keep up on it.
Okay. How did you enjoy the announcement of the party, though? I guess this question is for everyone, not just Dieter in particular, because it felt like a lot of parties didn't really have a size-limited compo category, and suddenly SuperO came with this idea. There was this discussion already at Revision, I think last year or 2 years ago, that they didn't have a small-sized compo, and a lot of people did a lot of entries for the wild compo to like sort of complain and try to get it. And then last year they finally had, or was it 2 years ago? Not sure anymore. They finally had a category especially for that, but there aren't that many parties throughout the year that have size-limited entries. There's like Chaos Constructions, there's Function, Outline, and 1 or 2 more. So it's really good that I think that we finally have a party that focuses on this side of thing. Did you guys, was this like a sigh of relief, or is just just one more party, something to try to release something for? What are your feelings about that, Dieter? I'll start with you, if you don't mind.
Definitely, yeah. I actually had a 32 and a 64 byte entry I've had for a while, and yeah, there wasn't really any good opportunities to release it. So when I heard about this, it was great. I thought it was sort of a needed thing. It's sometimes hard to compete, and especially you sometimes get lumped in with the DOS.
Yeah,
it's nice having a separate category for that. Trying to compete with the DOS is just really hard.
Mm-hmm. Helmut, do you have any thoughts you would like to add?
Yeah, maybe I try to make it short. Like not recently, like years ago, I was trying to expand the whole thing with distributing knowledge, and Trickster came up with the idea of a wiki, and now SuperRogue came up with the idea of a party, like a party just for the size coding, and I would be like, why didn't I do it? But I didn't, and I'm super happy and thankful and glad that SuperRogue actually did it and made this party, because I'm really closely communicating with him, and I know it's a lot of work to get the stuff done, and I think I couldn't have done it myself, even if I would have wanted to do it. So I'm happy that finally we have something which is focused on size coding in that regard, and as far as of now, it looks like pretty much perfect. Like the announcements, the pre-shows, like for example today, the prizes, the videos, the awards, and everything. It looks just brilliant. So
I was saying in the beginning when SuperRogue was telling me about the idea, I was thinking that you might be a little bit too ambitious. Like, why don't you just do a small, 1 or 2 compos, something like that? And he's like, no, I want to do the whole byte and then add this compo and that compo. Like, what about stuff for musicians? Yeah, let's add this compo and that compo. Like, maybe it's a bit too much, but we've been getting a lot of releases out there, so I think it's really cool, and looking forward for the party next week. Ilmanit, do you want to add something before we take a look at the Nano Awards, which is another crazy idea that SuperRogue added to the mix?
So I think it's great because really there is not that many competitions with size limits, and I think that's really the first one with the 128, 64 or 32 bytes size limits. I personally never did anything at this size before, and that was a big motivation for me to really learn new things to get the stuff done at this size. So that was very motivating.
Okay, let's take a look at the Nano Awards. I guess we should first explain what the hell the Nano Awards are. So there are the Meteoric Awards, which cover demoscene releases from the previous year, but there was like no specific category for very small size stuff. There was a category for intros already, and a category for what's it called officially? This is not possible on this machine. Outstanding achievement on this machine, where most of the tiny size coding stuff end up dropping. So since SuperRogue was organizing this party, him and other people had this idea that, okay, maybe you should do special awards just for tiny size stuff, anything below 1K for old machines, retro machines, and for DOS and RISC stuff. So we have the nominees to show for you. We also have one other thing to show you first, which is the award that you will actually get if I manage to open it. Let's start with the old school, I believe. And this is what the award looks like. I probably need to switch screen to this. Okay. So this is what the award will look like. Nano Awards 2021, Best Old School. I think this is a render, not a physical thing. At least if it's a physical thing, it looks very digital to me. But yeah, and it does say author group production instead of, so yeah, definitely a preview. But yeah, it looks pretty snazzy, as they say. So let's see who ends up with this. And we have 10 nominees, and Aki did do a video at some point about that. But we're going to play them one by one. The first one is Digital Opera. like 40 seconds is enough. So for the ZX Spectrum, have you guys? Well, I guess you have seen it before, but what can you tell us about this in terms of, for people who don't know anything about size coding, how hard is it to make this on the ZX Spectrum? Do any of you guys want to give it a go, explaining to the normal person why is this amazing as a piece of art that fits into the small size that it does? Helmut?
For the ZX, I can't really tell. I mean, I'm amazed that something for another platform than MS-DOS can achieve that, because it's very rare. So I can just appreciate by the rareness of the thing that does audio-visual glitz thingies. I can just appreciate that it has to be hard work. But I didn't touch it myself, so I can't really judge it, which is a pity, actually. So maybe other guys are more competent to talk about Z80.
Ilmanit, do you have any thoughts on that?
Right, so I also don't know the CPU that well to really appreciate it. I know who did it, and I know the skills of this person, so I really understand that it must be top notch for a platform. But I can only imagine like doing it on the platform I'm familiar with, and that would be very, very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So
how different is the Atari from the Z80? I really don't know, seriously, myself.
Right, so quite different. So very different chips. They're a different CPU, and so it's 8-bit computer, but still the differences are huge, basically on every level. So from the sound, where ZX has basically just one channel, Atari has 4 channels. The CPU is different, where ZX has faster CPU, but some things must be done slower than on 6502. It has different graphic chips, so ZX has very nice features for the full screen effects, like color attributes and like many different things. On the other hand, Atari has higher palette and sprites, poor sprites, but still sprites, and some programmable graphics modes. So very, very different platforms, quite uncomparable.
Mm-hmm. Dieter, do you have any knowledge of the ZX Spectrum?
Nothing specific. I'm always impressed by the small demos that manage to get sound out of it, but mostly because in the Apple II, it's got no sound support at all. It's actually got support for pretty much nothing at all, actually. So, but always impressed with the ones that get sound.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one, and I hope VLC manages to open this up properly. This is Dottie Vale for the C64. Okay, so pretty cool for the C64. Any of you guys have experience with C64? I guess not as well. Helmut, do you want to comment anything in particular about this one?
Dr. Vale, I can remember because I don't see it on the screen right now, but I remember I found it very elegant. Like Dr. Vale had very pretty, I mean, it was pretty for a size-coded thing, and it was one of the things which I wanted to like know people more to be maybe attracted to do something like this on the C64. Just to show that C64 is totally capable of doing a tiny intro.
Yeah.
A good tiny intro, yes.
Ilmanit, do you have any thoughts on this particular one?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how to achieve such effects on 64, but I have also admit that it's a very nice and elegant effect, and the jitter which is done there is very nice looking. So it's not like standard jitter, but like artistic one. So it's nice one for the size.
Mm-hmm. Dieter, do you have any thoughts?
It looks nice. You know, it's always interesting seeing the other 6502 chips, machines 6502s and MNC, the various, effects you can get comparing the systems, because the CPU is the same, but you can see what the difference that the different graphics chips and stuff make.
Okay, let's move on to the next nominee, which is 4-in-1. This one doesn't have sound. This one is a 1K for the ZX Spectrum. It's cool that it has a lot of different effects on it. I guess that's the origin of the name. Okay, enough of that. Helmut, do you have any thoughts, especially considering it uses somewhat of a similar gimmick that you had on memories and other stuff that you use, like having several effects inside a tiny intro?
Yeah, I can't judge because of the platform, but I think it looks pretty good. I think the style of Goblin shows he experiments a lot with the dithering, like to achieve this kind of gradient shade effects with just the dots, which works pretty good. But I'm sorry, I can't really appreciate how good it is because I never tried it myself. I mean, I think shit my pants if I try it and realize, oh wait, that's actually difficult because nobody, it's a screen exercise and whatever. But I think it's pretty good. Just even without my precise knowledge about the platform, I have not seen this before on the platform, and I think people actively try to achieve stuff like this, and nobody achieved it so far. So I think it's great.
Okay, Ilmenit, do you have any thoughts on this particular entry?
Right, so it reminds a little bit one production called Irreality on ZX Spectrum that has a bit more effects and I think a bit more variety. But as Helmut said, I'm not an expert on the platform, so I cannot really say how complex it is to achieve those effects.
Okay, Dieter, what about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with everyone else. Unfortunately, I haven't done as much with the platform, but I do know trying to make effects like this otherwise, getting something like that to run, especially at a smooth frame rate, is impressive.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is Moonrise. Which is very blue so far. There we go. Little pre-calculation. Nice. So I guess this one, Ilmonit, you do have something to say about it, because you do know the platform, you coded this one. So what can you tell us about what we're seeing here?
Right, so it started as a procedural graphics, and basically the last moment I was able to fit the animated snow there, inspired by some other prod. It was quite challenging, at least for me, to fit everything there. The general idea came from like pixel art and looking at some like snowy landscapes done in pixel art, and I thought, okay, so there is no procedural graphics in 256 bytes, and definitely not on this platform. So let's try to do something around it, and I tried really to squeeze a lot of different elements, so stars, gorgeous moon, like with some dithering, the landscape, the tree, the road, and like the final touch was the snow and the line on the road, because without this line there, it was like looking like a triangle. So I was really trying to add some perspective there, and like fitting it all together was quite challenging. The OS was very helpful because on Atari there is one function to draw a line, like kind of Bresenham line. So that was very helpful on this platform, but still it was quite challenging to do everything there with the animated snow at the end.
Free line drawing. Okay, I didn't know that about the Atari. It's pretty cool. How hard is it to make size-limited stuff on the Atari? Like this one is 256 bytes. What can you tell us about that? The header issues and stuff like that.
Right. So the one issue is that there is a variety of DOSes and different ways to load the stuff. So depending on what you select to deload, the production might work or not. So if you really want to make something working everywhere, that would require a huge initialization or header. But if you aim for the majority of the platforms, you can just basically keep the smallest header, which is 6 bytes, and that's it. So it's not big overhead there. And how hard it is? Well, quite challenging, because you really need to understand the OS, the graphic chipsets, the sound chipsets, and really go with the details how to really squeeze something into this size. So not that easy.
Okay, before I switch to the next one, I'm going to try real quick to switch to 4G. So I'm going to disconnect my internet, and if everything stops brutally, that means that my internet did not realize that the 4G is working properly, and then I'll try to come back. So I think I hope, but it's still with old connection. Sorry about this, guys. I really wish I could fix this.
So people should donate more so that you can afford the proper setup. You're saying that?
I wish it was that simple.
So are we live? I'm confused. Are we
Yes.
live again?
We are
Okay.
live again, but we still have
So-
the frame drops. So let's move on to the next. I think if you
No,
refresh...
let's not. I think the stream missed like my appreciation of the entry, because I totally think Illuminati got robbed of the first place in the competition, because I really love this entry. And like off stream, we just discussed about it. I really love that entry because the hardware is not as powerful, and you have to come up with a concept. And I think he did pretty excellent with concept and realization. Like you see it and you understand and feel it immediately without what he called fancy effects of like tunnels and all the cube stuff and whatever. This is like special. It's like it stands out, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
For that. Thank you for that love letter to Ilmanit. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Clive. Okay, so that was Clive, made by Marquee Design. I think I'm not sure if it was the first Spectrum entry from Super Rogue. It might have been the second. He just started learning the ZX Spectrum stuff, and he came up with quite a couple interesting entries. Helmut, do you have any thoughts on this particular one?
Yeah, for this, like you mentioned, he just skyrocketed with on every platform he put his fingers on, and just produces excellent intros on every platform. So I can't judge this one too well, because it's not my platform. But I see the distinctive style he has. Like he tries always to go artistic, And I think if you have some kind of animation like this with sound, it's already a win, an achievement. But I cannot judge the, particularly the hardware. I can't tell anything about it. I like it. I can say that much.
Okay. Dieter, I'm switching the order a little bit. So Dieter, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it looks nice. Grew up in the United States, and so we didn't have as many, some of the, the systems that like the ZX Spectrum, we didn't really have around that much. So it's been interesting, learning about the systems and seeing the different effects they can do and all that. So I'm always impressed with, compared to what I'm trying to do on the other systems. It's always impressed to see what the other systems can do.
Mm-hmm. Ilmanit, what were your thoughts on this particular entry?
Yeah, I also liked it a lot. I was looking previously at some other 256 bytes entries on ZX Spectrum, and there weren't that many good ones. There are a few like very good ones, but really not that many. So it's a very good platform really for this size coding, and having a good person doing stuff there, we can expect a lot in the future.
Okay, let's move on to the next nominee, which is actually it's by New Line, and it's called Compo 512 Wash Dry Repeat Filler. Okay, Wash Dry Repeat Filler, that makes sense. You see the icons on the screen. And this one is for the Atari, but for the Atari ST. What is the difference between the Atari ST and the Atari XL? Ilmanit, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right, so Atari XL is 8-bit computer and ST is 16-bit, it's like Amiga. So it was quite a competitive product at the time when it was released to Amiga 500, and basically very next generation platform. Not keeping many similarities with the previous one. So in fact, Amiga 500 was much closer in design to Atari because of the designers that moved to Commodore. So that's a very new platform. I never did anything on this platform, so I cannot judge really.
Okay. Helmut, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's too big. No, I'm kidding. I don't know the platform, right? But I think it's stylistic. When I see it, I think like Sensence style has done it, or it has a bit of Sensence stylism, like just the moving things and the geometry, or maybe a bit like still intros. It has a specific stylistic flavor, so I can just suggest or like guess that they didn't care about the size so much. They tried to make it look precisely as they wanted to. Like they had this idea in mind and tried to make it look like this, what we see. So I think I can excuse the waste of bytes, so to speak.
Okay. Dieter, do you have any thoughts on this particular intro?
No, it's nice seeing one's, variety in what they look like. It's always nice. Sometimes trying to get things small, you're sort of stuck in the same set of different effects you do, and I thought this interesting one to try out.
Mm-hmm. The next entry we have lined up is Galactic Bearing, and it's for the Atari XL again. Okay, that was really good. How hard is it to get the sound working on the Atari size intro stuff, Hilmanit?
So I think that's the advantage of Atari, because Atari has a Pocky chip, which allows with just a few writes to registers make some constant or modulated sounds. So this is quite easy there on this platform. And also the Pocky register has some noise generator function, so which I tried to add as a kind of final touch to this intro when I had some space. I saw on the chat that not everybody likes it, but I think it gives some extra like mood to this. I like this. So
I liked the intro, so well done. Helmut, what were your thoughts on this one?
I think it's also a pretty good example of what you can achieve. So people, if you look for an example of how to do it, then look no further than that, because like I'm waiting for this stuff since years, that people explore other platforms and show us that animation and concept and sound can go pretty well together. I'm seeing in the chat that there's a question of is the sound intentional, like the noises, and I think they are, right? The noises,
right,
effects.
yeah.
They felt connected to the visuals to me. I don't know why people are saying otherwise on the chat.
I have this discussion, I think, a lot with Engine Star, like how much sound can you try to achieve on these platforms, and will people be pissed off? Because if there is no sound, then they can imagine sound. If you do sound, then they have high expectations. And this is, I think it's unfair. Like people should go with the concept. Like if somebody presents something, then they should be able to complete the sound in their mind to what it's intended to be. Like,
very, very good point. I got negative comments for the Moonrise that it had no even basic sound. So
yeah, and then if you do sounds, you get this,
If you had a beat, people would have complained, why do you only have a beat? Why aren't people's imaginations open to fill in the gaps instead of just...
I mean, with this intro, the hardest part wasn't the sound, in fact. Like, because if you think about these rotating dots, you could basically do them in different ways. And like the easy way would be to do multiplication and basically every single rotation of every single point and so on. That would be possible, for example, on the DOS. But on this platform, the CPU is too weak for it. So in fact, what's drawn there is a fractal of basically 8 rotating dots, and that's it. And the rest is done as basically it's drawing like a non-random fractal, and like 3 fractals in fact to have these colors there. So I think the technique itself is more interesting than the sound there.
A lot of size coding stuff end up being like that. Like it's more interesting as a concept than what it's actually in place, like the code that went behind it, and not exactly the end result. I know maybe I'm talking out of my ass. Feel free to disagree if you do disagree. Dieter, what about you? Do you have any thoughts on this particular intro?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting, and sometimes it's sort of the subtle stuff, like on the low-end machines, just drawing something circular in a small amount of space. If you don't have some sort of ROM routine for drawing circulars, I just find impressive, because the Apple II you can't just draw a circle. It takes a lot of code, possibly signing cosine lookup tables and all kinds of stuff like that. So just getting circles can just be impressive sometimes.
Definitely. Okay, let's move on to the next nominee. We do have 10 nominees, so this is number 8. It's called Fluxus. was really interesting. That was also by Marquee Design. I think it got released at Flash Party. It's pretty good. I think this was probably the first time that Super Oak did anything for the Spectrum, but it looked pretty good. Like it abused the block thing that the Spectrum does, which is a pretty unique character in Spectrum. Sure, there are other computers who have that limitation in terms of colors on a certain range, but I think it did really good work with that, so I liked it personally. Helmut, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I can say it's a better one. I just listened it again, and it sounds like stereo. I was asking in the chat. I don't think I get the answer to the fullest. It can be wired stereo, whatever. I think I like this more, and it was again one of the good examples, like what people can do with sound and animation and lots of effects and different effects. Yeah, so people be inspired by this. Go for it. Like try to copy this one and improve it.
Spectrum usually just has 3 channels, and you can wire them to be all mono, or some prefer to have it like one on the left, another one on the right, and one on the center. So it depends on your setup. So it can be mono, it can be stereo, depending on how you set it up and how you define things. So there's your answer for you. Ilmanit, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so I also like it a lot. I like it more than the previous one, than the Cliff. So when you said that this one was first, I think it has more variety than the previous one. Even when it's more like random, the Cliff was more designed. Then yeah, I personally I like it more. I like how the patterns are changing and looks very, very nice for the eyes.
Okay, Dieter, what about you? What's your opinion?
Yeah, the same. I'm often impressed when the Spectrum demos do a good job with the colors, because the color palette it has can be pretty garish at times, and so it's impressive when you get nice. I thought the colors looked really nice in this one.
You have a very similar problem on the Apple II. I mean, the palette on Apple II is very restrictive.
Yes.
So you're used to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next entry, we have TWEF. Which is for the Atari Lynx. 256 bytes. I have no clue what the Lynx is capable of. Apparently, it's capable of a checkerboard tunnel with scan lines. Well, since it has no sound, we can comment while it's playing. Helmut, do you have any knowledge whatsoever of the Atari Lynx?
No, I have not, but I think the hardware is restricted, and so if I see a fluent animation of a tunnel which looks like fake gradients, I can say I'm impressed. But I see also at the switches of like the rotation is not constant; it flips on the side, it jumps kind of, and I think there you can see a bit that it's fake. But
It's
I mean,
fake.
everything it's fake, but everything is fake on these
Animation.
platforms. It's impressive. I mean, normally we had this kind of interest for DOS like 20 years ago, and people were like, "Oh, look at tunnel, it's shaded and it's smooth," and people were like, "Wow!" And now you see it on the Lynx, and you should be no less impressed than we have been impressed before.
Ilmanit, what about you? Do you have any knowledge of the Lynx?
So quite limited. So I know that it's a bit newer version of 6502 CPU there, with a few instructions added and a few removed. So no tricks with undocumented opcodes are allowed there, but they have some, I think, instructions that perform like zeroing of some memory immediately and stuff like this. But I didn't look at the source code of this one. I think it's available. But generally there were tunnels done on 6502 before, usually doing some code generation, like speed code generation. I don't know if this one is using it or if it's using some hardware for the display with some tricks. So I don't know, but like generally there are not many tunnels on 6502 done. That looks good. So
okay. Dieter, do you have any knowledge on the Atari Lynx?
No, but again, with the 6502, I mean, I've tried to do tunnels on the Apple II before, and horrible frame rate. So, it's impressive. I'm impressed just because,
Okay, I hope this one inspired you to do a tunnel in yellow in the Apple II, because I heard yellow is hard to get on the Apple II, and you're an expert in getting that. So yeah, the challenge is there. The last nominee we have to show you for the old school awards is Colors of Love. A little bit noisy there. Okay. Colors of Love by Joker for the ZX Spectrum, 256 bytes. Well, I like the concept around it, and the contrast between the noise part and the colorful rainbow love part. So that's interesting, and the border thing also seemed interesting. Although I'm not sure how hard it is to put colors on the border. I don't think it's that hard on the Spectrum. So yeah, but still interesting intro. Helmut, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it does what the name says. It's Colors of Love, and I think that there's a deeper concept. Maybe not. Maybe I'm seeing it. But the difference between a functioning heart, like a good one in love, and the malfunctioning one with the blue distortions. And so I can feel the stuff behind it. Like if you go dark and deep, and then you like if you hide your thoughts and you open up and be like all smiling and deep inside you're sad or something. So I can feel like it triggers this a bit. Yeah, this is what I can see.
I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that in this. Ilmanit, what's your thoughts?
Very similar thoughts. So I thought that okay, the colors are like when everything is good, and the blue one was like frozen and kind of depressive, but generally not my cup of tea with the intro. I like the concept, but I'm not sure if that's the best what was possible to achieve there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Dieter, what about you?
Yeah, that was a good use of the colors.
Definitely. Well, I already asked you about the ZX Spectrum, so I think that's we don't need to go there again. So that's it for the 10 nominees that we had for the old school thing for the Nano Awards. You can vote on stuff. This is already the one for the new school. It's called Bit Runner, and I'm gonna play it now. And apparently it doesn't have sound, which will allow us to talk about it while we watch it. I'm just taking a look at where it was released. It was released at Function in 2020, won the first place. It's by Digimind. Looks really good. Has like this 3D depth into it in 256 byte. I think it's fractal based, based on the Mandelbrot set. Helmut, I'm sure you have a lot of opinions on this.
Well, I'm not sure it's fractal based actually. It looks like a logical formula and ray marched rather, but with a higher resolution than my usual ray marching, so it's like it looks better. And for one, like if it's getting green brownish and with a stage, it looks like an old school video game stage. Like it really looks like wood, like a wooden stage. And I found this very impressive. I mean, I know this is, for example, like what we see now, or like what I see on the stream is Sierpinski triangle stuff and recast. But it's not so much about the technique, which can be done in less size, I guess. It's about the structures, like what can you do with the mathematical formulas despite the normal cubes, despite the normal Sierpinski triangles. And I think the demo is excellent in that one. Also, it's very fluent, and the pixel resolution is very high. So this is special, because if you go lower in size for raycasting, you get this blocky things. And this one doesn't have it. It has like distinct different structures in the middle showing, which have not been seen before, I guess. And the precision is very high, and it's very smooth. So, yeah.
Ilmanit, do you have any thoughts? Do you have much experience with DOS to be able to judge the difficulty on this one?
Oh, and not with the size coding on those, but with those platforms in general and programming, yes. But I agree with what Helmut said. It's great. I would only add that I also love the general design of it. So how the color palette is set there with the blue and the red. And the structure generated are great. And I think I haven't seen that many of these kind of shapes generated in 3D. So there were like 3D fractals or 3D formulas generated, but not this fluently, like with transition from one to the other. It's great. I love it.
Dieter, what about you? What do you think about this?
Yeah, it looks very amazing. I have done some, x86 coding and stuff like that, and x86 is, it's really impressive how compact you can get the code. Of all the ones I've used, I think it's probably the most compact instruction set you can get. But even so, it's still, impressive how much more you can get done in a small amount than you can with the other platforms.
Next up, we have a Chrome Revenge. It's a 1K with sound, and it's made for a special platform. It's DOS, but free DOS, yeah. Now it's almost looping. The impressive thing here is that it's real-time ray tracing in high resolution, which people who were born in the DOS era back in the late 90s, this was completely impossible to get on the CPU. But like modern CPUs allow you to get this kind of frame rate, and I guess also some optimizing tricks and stuff like that. Helmut, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, totally. I can talk hours about this one, I think. First of all, it has a special place in my heart, and I gave it a heart and port, and I want just to complain to the port makers that we don't have enough hearts, so I had to scratch some of my hearts to place it here, because I think it shows a new direction in size coding for MS-DOS. Because, like you said, it's real-time, hello people, wake up, real-time ray tracing on a CPU, not on a GPU, it's on a CPU, with tricks, but still it's ray tracing. So also it has a sound, and it has like not a MIDI, because some people in the chats were saying like it's MIDI. It's not MIDI. It's a special synthesizer. So everything is made by hand, which is very impressive. So I think it's a way to show the past into the future. Like if you have separate categories like old school, MS-DOS, and new school, this is what is the English word for Wegweiser? It's a pass shower, whatever. Like, this is how it looks like. Mm-hmm. Now, if like shader guys get a grip on how Tomcat did it you can, I think you can port GPU stuff to this kind of framework, and you can, I think, also shrink it in size with a lot of effort or put more stuff into it. So I just want to say kudos to Tomcat for bringing us this pearl. Yes.
Okay, Dieter, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's. I don't know that much to add, but yeah, the stuff like this is just amazing, I think. And I don't know enough about the level details going on in this particular demo, but I'm very impressed by it.
Have you looked into ray tracing at all before? Is it something that you have explored?
Yes, yeah, and a little bit, not that much, but I know the basics of it and all that. But I haven't actually done much programming of it myself, so.
Yeah, I remember seeing the C64 trying to do real-time ray tracing, and it was like you wouldn't count it as frames per second, but more like seconds per frame. So I can only imagine what old school platforms like look at this and think like this is just completely impossible to do. So yeah, Ilmenit, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so when I first saw it, I thought it's GPU, it's shader, and then I checked the platform and I couldn't believe my eyes, basically. And then I thought, okay, it must be some trick then, because it's not possible. And then I checked that the author did like previous to stuff with ray tracing before, like real-time ray tracing, and I was like mind blown.
I think this is one of those entries that you really need to know a lot about the platform and the code to really appreciate the value out of it, because otherwise it's just some balls that flying around, and you don't really understand why it's so important technically or mind-blowing technically without the context explaining those things. Next entry we have lined up is memories. So this was by Helmut, and it won the revision last year, and it became a bit of a hit, like one of the highlights of revision actually, because it has so many things on 256 bytes. It has like 4 different effects, something like that. More, I don't know. I didn't count this time, but it has a lot of stuff. Anyways, Helmut has a write-up of it. He just posted it on the chat, so do check it out. But Helmut, can you do a resume of your thoughts on your own entry? We already talked about this on another Mystery Demoscene Theater, but I don't know. Try to summarize somehow.
I'm baffled by the reactions because what I said already, I did what people expected me to do. I just crammed everything I already did into one intro because people were asking for it. Like they were making jokes like, "Oh, this is 32. Why don't you just combine 8 32 effects into one?" And At one point, I just did it. So there still a lot of work went into it, but I everything is in the article I wrote. You can look it up. I'm basically still standing on the shoulders of giants. For example, Gargari has some influences, or Rick from Farbroach has some influences. Roller has some influences. Like I just gathered all the ideas and combined it into one intro. So it would have not been possible without them, but still there went a lot of work into it apparently. And I'm glad that people perceive it as they do, because I did it. I can't have my mind blown. I coded it, so I can't. And I'm glad that the scene got the reaction and people had focus on the demo scene as a whole. By that, this is
and not just the scene. That's one. There are not that many productions. Well, there are quite a few on the demo scene that like transcend the social circle of the demo scene and end up Slashdot and Reddit and whatever, and people talking a lot about it, and bring some more awareness to the demo scene and newcomers, which is ultimately a good thing for the demo scene to have more new blood. And this was one of the entries that did that, because it amazed so many people who are into programming assembler that you could have so much content into one single entry. I'm curious.
You want to know a special story? If you, I recently did some. I do another degree, and one of the doctors I work with on a university, I was finding out he was on Amiga 500 doing some font editor or something, and I was just posting him the link for the memories, and he was like, "Oh, you are the guy," because I saw the intro. So it's like people know this. It's amazing, and I feel like I don't have the right word in English for it. It's a demut. I feel like honored. I think I feel honored that people know this. Like it's just it's great to have something that is known by people. Yeah.
Okay, Ilmanit, what are your thoughts on this intro?
Well, I'm speechless, basically, so really hard to say something. And for me, it's top 10 in generally things that was produced by demoscene. So I'm totally impressed by this, and it's great. Not only the effects there that they are fit together, but also the music, the tune, which is greatly fitting the production. And for me, what was really like groundbreaking was transition also between the effects there added, like mind blown totally.
Okay,
thank you.
Dieter, do you have any thoughts? Had you seen this before?
Yes, I've seen it before. Actually, last year, it came out, I was actually interested in seeing how much of this could get applied to the Apple II, and I actually worked a little bit of homework with that.
Nice.
To get the source code nicely, and some of the effects you can do for maybe about twice the size, and some of them, just not possible. Like you get like literally like a couple frames per minute, not a couple frames per second when you try to do them. So. But it was really impressed. I know enough x86 assembly language. I could try to translate it in between and try things out. And it's a fun thing to try to do.
Okay. I think if there are any entries that get nominated for the Meteorix Awards, I think Memories will definitely be one of them on the outstanding achievement stuff, because of the condensed form of it all. I'm quite curious on what are the nominees that's going to be on the Meteorix themselves, and also I'm quite curious on the results of the Nano Awards, how people will vote these things. Are they going to go more for popularity, or are they going to go more for personal design taste or aesthetic taste or stuff like that, or their pet platforms? So I'm very curious on that. The voting is open for everyone. You just need a vote key. Go to party.lovebyte.party. Get a demo, a vote key from Super Rogue or Havoc or Raymond or myself. I have access to give vote keys as well. And do remember to vote for the Nano Awards. Let's keep looking at the nominees that we have. The next one is called Edge Dancer. It's for RISC OS. And it doesn't have sound, so we can talk about it already. Helmut, do you have any experience with the RISC OS? Was this impressive for you?
No, I have a Raspberry Pi, and I coded actually for it. Like some projects at work require edge computing and embedded device computing, but this one totally blew my mind. Apparently the effect is one of mine, but transferred, but so I could see it in real time and with like infinite depth. And I wasn't to the point aware that this is possible. I wish from time to time I have time to dig into this. I just can say this one blew my mind. When I was seeing it, it was just blow my mind. I was like, wow, we have a new contender, but it apparently placed not that high at the party, which I was like a bit shocked with. So
I think it depends a lot on how much people know about the platforms, and usually these kind of entries are mixed with all kinds of different platforms. So it depends a lot on the knowledge of the people have on the platform, the result that they got. I'm taking a look at what result they got exactly.
Fifth place, I guess, fourth or fifth place. Or even worse. I mean, maybe people don't actually like understand that what they are seeing is a raycast
Seventh
3D
place
object.
at
Seventh
Outline.
place. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Let me
So
see
maybe-
the other ones that got placed there.
Maybe the awards are a possibility to show a bit of appreciation for outstanding intros that got almost no reaction from the audience because they didn't grasp it right. So this is my
It's always subjective, right? It depends on who you ask. I mean, if you get 5 people to nominate their best, it's always going to be slightly different. There are some that are obvious choices, but when you extend the lists, it starts trickling down really fast. Ilmanit, do you have any experience with the Risk OS? Anything you would like to say?
No experience, but I think it's great looking. There were rakecasts before of flying through some tunnel, but this one is with this twist, which I really like. So it's not like just like horizontal and vertical lines there, and the colors fit very well, and the size, I think it's great.
Okay, Dieter, do you have any thoughts on the Risk OS entry?
Yeah, I actually done a few things in the Raspberry Pi. I've actually, had a demo use it, though I often do it sort of bare metal, not so much with Risk OS. I don't know as much about Risk OS, so it's a little hard to tell sometimes. Reprogramming directly to the hardware, it's, you can't have very small demos because of the Raspberry Pi, at least, just getting graphics out takes a lot of instructions. But still impressive, the hardware and all that. It's nice to see. I think the Raspberry Pi is a nice demo platform. I think it's a shame more people don't use it to write demos for.
Yeah, there are not that many Raspberry Pi demos out there. There are 2 or 3 of them that are like show the potential of the platform, but I think there's still a lot of untapped potential there. And it's so interesting that it can be like so portable as a platform. It's a computer that you can have in your hand and just plug it to stuff. Anyways, let's move on to the next entry, which is Haiku. Haiku by Marquee Design. It won the at party in 2020. This was really good. I liked it because it feels like has a concept behind it. It's not just an effect with music. It connects both the effect with the music and has some sort of storyline to it. So I really like that. And I think it becomes more memorable because of that as well, at least for me. But I would like to hear your opinions about it. Helmut?
When I think about Super Rook, I think about another guy besides Tensenstahl actually having some distinct style to bring it to a competition, but with Like, I think there are many artists out there able to express themselves and stuff like this, but few are able to compress it in 256 bytes. For example, typical sentence style. It achieves to create a special atmosphere, even for me, because I know the ingredients. I know the instructions. I can see the instructions if I see the intro. But normally I'll be like, okay, he did it like this and like that, like that. But if you know how something works and it still gets to you, then this is when you know it's good. And this is the case with this intro. Like, you see it and you're like, oh, he did this, and then you're like, oh wait, like 1984, yes. What about security? Oh yeah, and then the sounds goes through your mind, and yeah, it works. It works for me. This is what I can say.
Okay, Ilmenit, what about you?
Yeah, I like it a lot because, as it was said, it's not just the effect. If you could, it has design, and it doesn't happen often, especially with size coding, that people invest time into not just doing the effect and finishing it there, but basically thinking what else could be done when I have the effect done. And that's the perfect example of it. So I think it's great.
Dieter, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah. Not even, I guess, the people sort of covered sort of the art part of it. The platforms I work with, they're actually, one of the harder things to do is to display text. So sometimes I'm just impressed, and just even though it's not hard for many platforms, just getting text on the screen like that, which can add a lot to a production, can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, and I really think they benefited a lot from having the text on screen on this particular entry. So definitely. Let's move on to the next entry. Nominee number 6, Apollo. Which does not have sound. It's 256 byte by Astro Idea. It got 3rd place at Revision 2020. You can see the moon. And I like the interference bit. Like, it gives you the feeling that it's really a transmission. So that's a clever, nice touch.
I wish it had sound, actually. Like, I'm so missing the sound. It could have gone greatly. What I can say about this is it was, I think, unlucky 3rd place behind Enigma on the revision. So they were pretty close. But they had like a few famous seniors were of the opinion that this should have won. Which is like, I can't comment on this because I wasn't in the same competition. But it's very realistic. This is what I wrote. It's just pretty realistic. Like, if you see it on the first glance, you're like, oh, there's a moon. And, oh, wait, this is the texture. And funny what you say about the flickering, because I actually thought it was a bit disturbing. So
you didn't like
it's
it?
like, of course, it's brilliant. I'm just having like minor thoughts. Like, I'm a bit sad. So I'm like, let's contact the guy and compress it a bit more to introduce sound. Like, this is what I think, because it's a pretty. I think there's wasted potential. It's great as it is already, but I think it could be like even better.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see where you're coming from. That it feels like it could be polished just a little bit more to really hit the next level kind of thing. Ilmenit, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so would be very easy to do in shader, but if you look at the platform, okay, so it has design as well. So this is what I like. It's not like just the bump mapping on the sphere and so on, but there was put some effort into the design, and the effort was great. And as you mentioned, the glitch there adds the impression that it's really far away, and the moon, when it's getting close, it's rotating faster and faster, and basically you can feel almost that it's probably gonna crash. And I think it gives impression, like strong impression. I like it.
Dieter, did you like this one?
Yeah. I feel like I'm playing a video game like Kerbal Space Program or something, and this is amazing. You get it down to that size.
Yeah. Next up, we have Gesprinstwald by Helmut. Sorry, I always mispronounce it. I cannot pronounce it. It's a fact.
The Gespensterwald.
So I'm biased towards this intro because it was released at Inertia, but also because it has this very dark cinematic feeling, which is totally my cup of tea. I love that kind of stuff. So I really liked how you managed to put in 64 bytes, how you have sound that's like the drone, but not just flat drone. It has drone, but with some variances, some subtle changes and resonations that really bring it to life. So I really love that. So well done, Helmut. Anything you would like to say about the intro?
Well, maybe this is an idea I got from Sentence Style to make the screen a bit more flat. So I had to have these black bars. And believe it or not, it comes from the fractal itself. So the formula was tweakable in a way that I don't even create the bars. They are part of the effect. It's weird. It's crazy. But yeah, other than that, I'm glad that I had the first place with that one. And I just want to make 64 bytes with sounds like 3D 64 bytes with sounds a thing again. I think I want to push people toward this and make them realize that this is possible in 64 on MS-DOS, and thus more is possible in 128 and even more on 256. So this is, I think, my motivation to do that, and I'm glad that people perceive what I try to express, like the black, white, dark, creepy thing is actually something which is the Gespensterwald. It is an actual forest on the coast here and nearby. And when you go there at night or when it's dark and it's foggy, it looks a bit like that. I mean, of course, without the Sierpinski stuff, but like the feeling is the same.
If you had enough drugs, it looks like Sierpinski all over you. So how did you do the sound on this one? How much bytes did you use for it? How hard was it to get those drone variations in?
There is I have to give Bot Surfer like respect for that, because there's one instrument in the MIDI set which has this special kind of behavior when you press a note repeatedly. This is something he found out, and it's funny that it's a French horn because the guy is French. So it's a French horn, and if you press this repeatedly, it adds up. So the only thing you have to do is to have the right notes for it, and the right timings, and the right volumes. And this is the only kind of configuration you need, and you have to make it so that if you add up sound too much, then you reach the maximum capacity of the sound wave, and it starts to click. And this one clicks too, but in the right amount. Like it goes like and goes back. And this was a bit of a hassle to tune, but other than that, it's pretty short. I mean, it's just playing a MIDI note repeatedly over and over again, which is something I criticized earlier, but now I'm using it myself, and it can help to produce an atmosphere. And if it helps people to get an atmosphere, then why not? Then it all means go for it.
Yeah, Dieter, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I really like this. Sort of almost makes you despair when you're trying to get a 64-byte demo and then see something like this and just know, where the state of the art is. So,
Ilmanit, what about you?
I think what's really selling the intro is to the audience who are maybe not even programmers is the mood and the sound there.
Yeah.
It's really atmosphere and well, generally the Sierpinski fractal is one of the simplest forms in computer art, but on the other hand, putting it into 64 bytes with this depth and the sound, amazing.
Okay, next up, next nominee we have Hydraulic Pistons, I think. Hydraulic Pixels by Astroidea. It doesn't have sound, it does have this interesting depth of field sort of thing, which I guess is just faked blurred, but it gives a nice impression. So I think that really gives a nice ambience to the thing. Helmut, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a pretty good one, but I have to say I was not that impressed in the first moments when I saw it, because I instantly knew how it was done. So that takes away from the impression. But after thinking about how the depth effect could have been done, it sold me. I was sold on the demo, because it's actually not that easy to make it good looking and fluent. So, and also the subdivisions is a bit, but it's not that easy to do. So yeah, I'm kind of biased because I know how this stuff is done, and I have I think Poi and other guys, and I think Frag from Square Root and others did stuff like this in 64, but not that good. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool still. But yeah, like I said, I'm biased because I know how it's done. So
Okay.
it's a bit of a pity.
Ilmanit, what did you think about this one?
I didn't do effect like this, so I don't know how it's done. But okay, I think I have some thoughts on this. How could it be done? But I really like the visuals of it. So it's basically beautiful. Look, like when you look, like it's this like chrome stuff from other planets. This could be maybe some like organism mechanical of the whole planet. I don't know, it's selling it for me. I really like it.
Okay, Dieter, what about you? Can you do this on an Apple II?
Well, not anything that small, definitely. No, it's very impressive. Yeah, I like the effect a lot.
Okay. Next up, we have Enigma, which is it's a remake of a very old school intro or effect. And it's a shame that it doesn't have the sound from the Enigma, but that would be really a tall order to ask for 256 byte. Just having the balls look like Enigma and the floor look like Enigma was already a lot of work. So Helmut, your thoughts on this?
Yes, I think it's a pretty good example of what 256 bytes can do, because it's a lot of effects not in order but combined in one scene. And also there's this famous gradients which are used quite often, but they are put in place where they actually work. Like you can create the gradients with a small amount of code, but to make it so that it works as an atmosphere is pretty good. And also, which is kind of I think a compliment in itself, is that Board Surfer, who did also great interest, did this Enigma thing also with Salaka, but his version compared to the Enigma sucks. Like if you watch Enigma and then you watch Salaka, which Board Surfer did back then you're like, oh yuck, this doesn't look right. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is what I feel. I mean, I was instantly reminded of Salaka and saw, wow, it looks so much better. So yeah, just kudos to Super Rogue.
I really wish they would have made it a 512 version with actual sound replicating the original Enigma. So that's my challenge for you, Super Rogue, if you're watching. Ilmanit, your comments on this?
Again, I think it's great. Also, great design put into making it looking very, very close to original. I'm coming from Amiga background, and looking at this, I said, "Wow!" Because it looks very, very similar to what was done there, and I think even better. So it's great.
Mm-hmm. Dieter, what about you? Did you know the original Enigma demo?
No, I don't think I've seen the original.
Oh, you don't have quality Amiga stuff on the US apparently. Well, what did you like about? Did you like the intro though?
Oh yeah, no, it looks nice. Yeah, I definitely need to go back and I came to the demo scene sort of late here, so the more famous ones I've seen. I mean, maybe this one was one. I haven't seen this one particularly, so.
It was one of the classics, like in early '90s. So I hadn't known about Enigma since later in my demo scene career. Let's say it like that. So it's normal. But for a lot of people who grew up with an Amiga, they had seen Enigma for sure. Anyways, let's go to our last nominee that we have for this category. It's called Ice Sprout. Doesn't have any sound. Helmut, what did you want to say about this one?
I think it's underrated for the same reason that one of Frag from Scarewood think it was underrated. It shows like one of the geometric structures that look like a flower, and this one from Kümmel it's much better than what Frag did in one of the outlines in 128 bytes. It just looks so good. But I think I can understand why people are not totally blown away by it, but I think they fail to see the art in that one. Like it's a specific design, it's in a higher resolution, and it looks just so realistic, like in its own.
Ilmanit?
Yeah, I think it looks good. If you think, okay, it's like bump effect and some shape moving, but it really works together. It really looks like ice, as Helmut said, like looks realistic.
Maybe it reminds me more of velvet than ice for some reason, but that's just me. Dieter, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I have to admit, my connection got lagged, and so I haven't seen it yet. So
Okay, it's
have to wait for the
it's
stream
an
to
ice. It's an icy looking thing that rotates. Okay, let's wrap up this part related to the Nano Awards. So these were the 10 nominees for the new school section that we have. So if you haven't voted, please go vote. It's important that you vote so we have the wider number of voters possible and supposedly better results out of that. So again, get your vote keys through Super Rogue, Havoc, Raymond, or myself. You can ask them on Discord. You can send us an email, whatever is more convenient for you, and register on the website and vote. Okay, concluding that section, let's talk about the compos that exist for Lovebyte this year. You still have 1 week to do some entries, so let's just go over the list real quick and what people can still do stuff for. And then we have a special announcement coming up later in the show, so please stay tuned, and I think you're really gonna love that. So let me take a look at the site real quick so I can read them in order. I can just also switch to this view. So, compos that we have at Lovebyte this year: the high-end 256 byte intro compo for DOS or RISC/ARM and other modern platforms. Not sure what other modern platforms would be. I think most everyone will do DOS or FreeDOS or RISC stuff. Probably a lot of people doing DOS, and this is probably going to be one of the categories with more entries on it. 256 bytes at least is one of the more established platforms for doing releases, so I'm really interested on the kind of stuff that we have. Helmut, you already said that you were already doing something. What are your what do you expect to see at this compo, and do you recommend people to participate in it if they haven't done an entry for it yet?
You mean specifically the 256 byte high end?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I highly recommend people doing stuff because I myself just did a placeholder, so to speak, because I wanted to compete in the Byteathlon. Yes, so I had to do like pretty much an intro, but I hadn't something ready. Like maybe people know it, and maybe not. I'm a specialist for the lower sizes, and 256 byte is actually a lot for me. So I have problems to create content. So my entry is like, I think it's nice, but it's not very good. So you can do something in a week and try to beat me at least. Otherwise, I think it's a perfect chance for people to start at the highest level of size coding, not from the competition, but from the size, because 256 byte is a lot of space actually, and we have a lot of sources on the Discord or on the sizecoding.org wiki. There are examples to have a small template, and I think Super Rogue actually prepared some starter kit for coding, so you can start off pretty easily if you know how to code and can send something. So the most important argument I can think of is like 256 byte is a lot of space to do something. So go do something.
Yep, definitely. Ilmanit, do you have any special thing you would like to say about this compo in particular, the 256 byte high-end compo?
Just join it. I think it's great. It put enough limits to like put you on focus with creativity, because with demos or bigger stuff, sometimes it may take a year or years even to complete something. But here, if you focus, if you do stuff in limited time, you can really create something extraordinary in a relatively short time. 1 week is totally enough.
Yeah. Dieter, do you have any thoughts on this particular category?
Nothing specific, though. I think it will have probably some of the more interesting higher end effects that you can't get in the other ones. So it's always interesting to watch what people come up with.
I think it's gonna be a bit boring if you list all the things. So or that we discuss all of them. So I'm gonna list all of them, and then we're gonna talk about the stuff that you guys are more interested in, and then we're gonna talk about the stuff that should have more entries because it doesn't have as much entries as it should, and then Superroll will cue me on that on the chat. So the entries that we have is the high-end 256 bytes, which will probably be the one with more entries. Then we have the virtual machine 256 byte, which I'm personally looking forward, but mostly because I did a tick 80 entry, as I mentioned. But you can do stuff in other categories, in other platforms, not just the tick 80. You can do stuff for the Pico 8, the JavaScript, basic. I'm not sure what basic is here in this format. I mean, I guess it's basic running on a old school machine, but just basic. I'm not sure. And Twitter, which is like a Twitter version where you would have to write all your code inside a Twitter limit, and it would throw it to JavaScript canvas, I believe. So a lot of different stuff that you can use, and I think this will be a very eclectic compo and very interesting one at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Then we have the old school 256 byte intro compo, which is for the old school machines, the Atari, the Spectrum, the Commodore 64, BK0010, BK0011, and all that jazz. This is going to be interesting. There were some special rules to accommodate the headers for these platforms, because a lot of the older platforms have different what's it called? It's not boot block, but like header size, I guess it's called. So it would make it tricky for some platforms to compete directly against others. So I believe there's a special rule for that. Like if you want to do something, for example, the Game Boy, you can submit it here and it only counts like the actual code, not boot block, whatever you call it, size. Please someone correct me if I'm wrong. And should be an interesting compo as well. Illuminate, I'm guessing this is more where you are more interested in participating since it has the Atari stuff. What can you tell us about this compo in particular, the old school 256 byte?
I think it's going to be very interesting because there are many platforms, and with those many platforms, all the platforms have different capabilities. And I believe people doing the entries for this competition will really try to use what the platforms offer and really push the envelope to achieve something that wasn't done before on the platforms. This is what I tried to do with my entries, or at least a few of them. So I'm really looking forward for a competition here.
Okay, Dieter, are you interested on this one in particular as well? I think the Apple II is included on this one.
Yeah, yes, and I have a couple entries for this one. Though often the things I write often are a little bit smaller than that, but it's hard sometimes. The gap is actually big enough that sometimes you do something right in the middle, and you're like, do I optimize this down for 128, or do I add features until it's a 256? So it's interesting. The stuff you can add to get to 256 to try to make your your demos more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Other compos that we have, the 128 byte, both for high end and old school, and then we have a combined 64 byte for very small stuff, and 32 byte, even smaller stuff, like you only have one effect. And then we have a combined 8 and 16 byte intro showcase, which I'm curious. I'm curious to see what people can do with no size. Can we have a no size intro compo as well? Helmut, do you have any thoughts overall on the different categories? Like what you expect from each one of them? Which one will be more interesting for you personally?
I think my sweet spot right now is the 64 bytes because I know there's pretty much something doable there. But I'm more interested in like what other people can do on other platforms because specifically with.
Okay, we should be streaming now again.
Looks good to me. Buffering for a moment.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Technical details, technical issues. Anyways. And now I have people making noise outside. The stream is going great.
But it's not on the mic. I mean, and we don't hear it. So just
Yeah. Okay, so welcome everybody back again. Thank you, Dieter, Hilmanit, and Helmut for your patience. And everyone who is still on the chat, thank you so much for hanging on despite the technical difficulties. So we were talking about the compos at Lovebyte. We have a lot of stuff for coders, obviously, because it's a size coding party. But we do have some stuff for musicians as well. Musicians who can code or people who just like dabble in making noise with bytes. So we were talking about the byte beat music compo in particular. And I did record that part despite the people on the stream not being able to see it. So we're going to just summarize it a little bit, what we just said. It's interesting to be able to look into a list of bytes and just try to shift stuff and divide stuff and try to get some sound out of it. And we encourage people to try that. There were a lot of threads about this kind of byte beat concept 5 years ago, 8 years ago. And we thought it would be cool to have it at Lovebyte, so we would have like a more audio-focused sort of compo. We haven't been having that many entries, so please, if you're thinking of doing any other entry for Lovebyte, consider doing something for the byte beat tracker music and try to make it fun. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, it just has to be somehow interesting. Another variant of that is doing the byte beat tracker music compo. So if you're like a musician and you feel like there's no chance in hell you're gonna mess with code and be able to figure out the mathematics stuff behind all that, try to do something for the byte beat tracker music compo. There are some example mod files that Super Rogue prepared. You can download it on the website, and that will help you immensely get things started that way. So please, if you're a musician and you're thinking that Lovebyte is not for you, try to make an entry with this, and you might be surprised how easy it turns out that you're able to do things despite the constrictions of being small size. Whew. Okay. 256 pixel graphics compo. You can only use 256 pixels, so this means you have to either do 16 by 16 or 32 by 8 or 8 by 32, all these kind of combinations that exist. And you have to use a selected palette, either the Sweetie 16, which I believe is from the TIC 80, the Pico 8, the C64, and the Combi 16. So trivia question, what the hell is the Combi 16 palette? Anyone knows? No one knows. Oh my god!
What kind of? You can just look it up.
What kind of guests do I have with me today who don't know the Combi 16
well, the reason
palette?
is simple because there's a palette for Sweetie and it's the best. So I mean, it just looks so sweet, like the name says. It has every usable color. But the other one, the GB16 colors, which look ugly in the first look, at first look, are pretty decent when it comes to pixel art stuff for RPGs. So I looked the palette up and I was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" But if you wanna pixel mountains and soil and grass and all this stuff, or pyramids or whatever, then it has natural colors for it. So that was pretty amazing to see what real artists, like I'm not an artist, can do with that. But if it goes for like demo-ish stuff, I will always choose Sweet 16. And other than that, I don't have to know any other palette. So I don't know what that is.
Okay, people in the chat are saying that it's a mix of MSX, C64, CGA, and Intellivision. Sounds interesting. I'm curious to see what you can do with it. It's a shame I didn't hear of it before. I went for the Pico 8. I did a small entry just because, trying to do as many entries for as many compos as possible. World domination, in short. And I did something for the PIC 80. So other compos that we have available are the game compo. You can make a playable game in 256 bytes or less, open to all platforms. Ilmanet, you were saying that you possibly could still be doing something for this. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this competition?
Right, so there were a few games done already in 256 bytes, including Tetris, which totally also blew my mind when I saw it by Rolla. My entry will be for Atari if I'll be able to finish it before deadline. And I think old platforms may have advantage there because they have specific chips that can be used. So I'm quite curious what's going to be produced, especially on high-end platforms.
I'm curious how many entries you will have because demoscene has some game development, but most of them focus on effects. I'm wondering how much from the propaganda, let's call it, that Lovebyte been having on other size coding communities, if we reach the game development or the people who are game development nerds, but for Chinese stuff, if they are gonna submit some stuff to Lovebyte or not. Dieter, do you have any specific thoughts on this compo in particular, or what is your favorite compo overall from the party?
Yeah, I don't know. The game one's interesting. I've done size coded games before, but never something as small as 256. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see what people can come up with. Yeah, I've been concentrating on the other stuff. The one I'll be most interesting probably is the 32 byte, old school one. I'm really curious to see what people come up with that.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. And then we have a surprise event, which I have a trailer for, which is what we are going to see now. First I should switch the view into this, and then I should open it.
At Lovebyte, we will premiere Byte Battle. A new concept where people from all different kinds of platforms and backgrounds can come together and show off their skills. From Amiga to Atari or traditional shader coders. From DOS and fantasy consoles to the ZX Spectrum. However, the contestants will be limited in both time and size. Like a limbo dance, the size limit will slowly count down from 512 bytes all the way down to 256 bytes. The size will be shown in the bottom right of the screen, so the audience can always keep track of how the contestants are doing. Who has the best effect? Who has the longest breath? Who can stay within the size limits? We will all find out at the Lovebyte party on March 12th until March 14th, 2021.
So yeah, that's the big announcement that we had for you today. We will have a sort of shader showdown, but in the TIC 80 and size limited, which I really love the concept, and it's something that Super Rogue and Havoc and Row have been working on for quite a few days, maybe weeks, trying to get this possible in a networked environment to have that. I'm really interested in seeing it take place. First reactions to this, Helmut.
Amazing. I've dreamed about that for a long time, and I was like having thoughts of doing something for Dossier, and then I realized it's difficult to pull off. It's very, very difficult. And again, Super Rogue and his friends are entering the battlefield and make it possible. I'm very impressed by that. It's amazing. It's just amazing, and I hope like the people from the Shader Showdown will realize or get notice of this and also enter the competition. That would be awesome. That would be a real blast.
I wonder how many entrants we will actually have. I'm an organizer and I don't know, so this is a well-kept secret. So I'm not sure when it will be announced who are the people participating. I believe sometime before the event takes place, so expect it within this coming week, I think. But it's really interesting for to see how it will develop. Ilmanet, is this interesting at all for you, coming from the Atari side?
It is definitely. So the platform itself is very interesting, and especially for size coding. I was even thinking about joining it, but probably I won't have time to get my skills enough to start in it. But definitely, I'm gonna watch it with great interest.
Dieter, what about you? Did you fool around with TIC 80 at all? Do you know the platform? What do you think about this idea?
I know. Yeah, I know about it. I haven't actually done any myself, but no, that's really, really interesting. It'll be a really fun thing to see.
I particularly liked how we will have like the size limit on the bottom right, and you can see how many bytes they are, and it will be shrinking with time, so that you can start coding your effect and not optimize at all, and then slowly start optimizing it to fit it into the final 256 bytes. I think that was a really nice little touch that really brings stuff together. Do you guys have any additional questions or thoughts that you would like to do about this? We have the organizers on the chat. They would clearly clarify any possible issues that you might want to bring up or discuss. I see some people asking stuff on the chat, but both Havoc and Super Rogue are already answering, so I don't think I need to repeat. So it's going to be interesting to see who will actually participate. Apparently Flopin is participating, which explains why she was doing that stream, trying to get used to TIC 80 just yesterday, 2 days ago. So yeah, so that's the show that we have for today. Sorry again for all the technical difficulties and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys want us to play any particular demo, or if you want to talk about any particular subject before we head out. I'll start with you, Ilmanet. Do you have any special thing you would like to share, or if you like us to watch a specific entry for us to talk about? We still have some time that we can do that.
No, I think I just wanted to thank you for having us here. It's really great to be here with you guys.
Thank you for your patience with all the technical issues and all that stuff. Dieter, same question for you. Is there anything particular you would like to watch or talk about before we head out?
No, I think I'm good. But thanks for having me on here.
I feel a bit. It's a real pleasure for me to have you, Dieter, because I really liked all the stuff that you did on the Apple II. So it's thank you very much for joining this. And I feel a bit bad that we didn't have any Apple II specific stuff to talk about to really, milk you on that knowledge that you have about the Apple II platform. But thank you so much for your time and being here and giving us your insight. And I would love to have you again at some other time when we have more Apple II topics to discuss about. Helmut, what about you? Any final last words before we head out?
Yes, I want to thank again for being invited and having the chance to talk to Ilmanet and Dieter in person, like not in real life, but having the chance to meet them like virtually, because I admire both their works, and it's great to have a talk to them, have a chat. Maybe soon in real life at a demo party, like seeing each other in 3D and all this stuff. And other than that, I like to everybody in the stream just spread the word of like what we just saw, the announcement for the shader showdown for the TIC 80. Just
I think the official name is Byte Battle. I think that's the official title.
So for the Byte Battle, please share the message, like, and please try to hook the famous shader giants, and let's see if they can. Yes, please.
I have a question for Super Rogue on the chat. Who are the participants? I mean, if you can't tell us who they are, I can understand that. Is there still openings for people? Should people be poking you, saying, "I want to be a part of that," or is it closed? Can you tell us a little bit more about that by text? Obviously, we will announce them at the opening show. Okay, so they are already closed. If you're gonna announce them on the first day of the party, I guess you're not looking for any other people to enter. Yes, sad times. You know what this means? This means we need to organize a byte battle outside of Lovebyte to have like more people, more people in to battle it out. So yeah, I think that's it from me. Sorry again, everyone, for the technical difficulties. I wish my internet was more stable, but you know, it is what it is. Thank you for hanging in there, for your support, all that thing. Especially our three guests, Dieter, Ilmenit, Helmut, also Super Rogue, Havoc, and all of the other people who are helping organize Lovebyte. Looking forward to the event next week. That's it for now. Don't forget to get your vote key and register and submit your entries and all that stuff. Bye bye, everyone. See you next time. Take care.
Thank
Yeah.
you.